Today, canceling the UN. What's the alternative? More coming right up. Welcome to Black Spring on your Wednesday. It is Wednesday indeed. And thank you to the loyal patrons Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, Let the Truth Be Told, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, loyal subscribers and followers like you. Thank you so much. You are the difference. And this happens to be, as I mentioned yesterday, this happens to be a bit of a maiden live stream week on Periscope. So, welcome everyone to Black Spring with Autumn. If this is your first time here, or if you're watching this in a replay, you are very welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you also to all the YouTube subscribers. Welcome. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you guys so much, as always, for taking care with the channelytics, including the thumbs up, thumbs down, and even when you throw that caution to the wind and decide to share out the stream in these times. Thank you. And also just make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. So, we are all about reindeer games and staying in the fight where available. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. And today, you've noticed the thumbnail. I mean, we will get into a couple of news stories, but I kind of want to look a little bit more at the geopolitics, or the geopolitical shadows is what I'm referring to, and some of the underlying ground swells that we don't quite pay attention to those. So I'd like to thank everybody once again for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Welcome on this Wednesday. Shout out to, let's see, quite a few people in the stream. We have quite a few people in the stream. Look who's here. Old School Wolf Media. It's been a lifetime. How are you? Thank you so much for coming in. Okay, it looks like do I have a troll on my hand? I would hope not, but proceed with caution if you are. We don't serve troll juice cold, cool, or warm around here. We don't do that. Shout out to excellent. Looks like somebody needs a Chrysler Imperials here. He knows. John Paul Antoniani. Looks like you need to scoot. Shout out to Old School Wolf Media. I think it's time. I'll circle back with you without a doubt. Shout out to Crazy Chick Sheena. Thank you so much for coming in. You said good lunch day. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Battery powered gardener. So, okay, yeah. So shout out to everybody. And thank you guys so much over on not Patreon, Periscope. So yes, this is the first week on Periscope. So we'll see what that looks like. Thank you so much. And Chrysler Imperial H, thank you so much for all that you do. And I will say this, and I don't mean to make these things a part of housekeeping, but we appreciate you guys. Formerly Battery Addiction. Okay, so I'll look for the battery powered gardener. That That's so necessary. So that you're essential. So essential. We'll put that in there. Thank you so much, Battery Powered Gardener. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I appreciate you guys for coming in. So I just want to go ahead and dig right in here. I've got the shovel and everything. So here we are. Today, I have to say, I decided to take a little bit less in from the RNC's day 2, and that's including last night's festivities or speakers. I did take in a few. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. And I did take in a little bit less on that. I mean, I think for the most part, I don't think that my morale is super low. I mean, I will say for those, it's definitely on the sunny side. Okay. The differences, we'll get into that. We have a little bit of a culture vulture section that I'm going to add to today's stream just so we can see. You're going to see something on full display that I haven't seen, but I'm glad, people show you who they are. And what was it, Maya Angelou? When people show you who they are, believe them. I don't think truer words have been spoken. Shout out to everybody in the stream. And I will say this, even though I took a little bit less in, I did witness quite a few, I think some historic moments. I mean, there's a lot of history being made. Now, the writer of history, on the other hand, that's why I say, I tell you guys all the time, get your journals out, get your catalogs out, get your procuring tools out, because who knows how this is going to be. We already know there's a huge, seems to be a huge concerted effort for revisionist history, and it's happening right now. Will this be, I've said this before, the dynamics that we're dealing with right now, what will that look like in history? What will the history books say about this time? Are they going to say this was the civil rights movement 2.0 with peaceful protesters and fake martyrdom? I am so over the fake martyrdom. It's communist tactics. Communists teach communist tactics, and they teach you how to, in those tactics, they teach you how to create martyrs, even if they're fake. Even if they're fake. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. Shout out to Philip J. Turner. Shout out to you. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, are you serious, DJ Vision Barnett? Let me speak to that just a second. King Face, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with King Face, and I don't want to do his profile any justice, but you might look up King Face. I had seen some footage from another conservative online, or at least somebody that's running a candidate for running for Congress, that made mention of King Face, and prayers go out to him and his family. I haven't seen or heard from him in a while via social media. I think maybe he was featured. He made an appearance on the Candace Owens show, and after that, I mean, even prior to that, he had been pretty quiet. So even those shows airing, I don't know how far back those shows are pre-recorded, if they're live, I'm not sure, but prayers out to him. Shout out to you guys in the stream. So what I want to do is have some things that I have to get through here. And so a couple of people that I wanted to mention. It was nice to see Nick Sandmann. I think his overall message was about, he stood his ground. He stood his ground from start to finish. And I thought that alone was courageous, because he did not become flustered, even in the moment. If you guys remember that, the incidents, and then he played it safe, because he was like in a snake pit. He was in a snake pit with a whole bunch of bad actors and distractions and those situations, that's when you're really in in a tough spot, is when you have to think on your feet, and you have to make a, when the odds are against you. I thought he remained very calm, and so shout out to his parents, to teach your kid restraint, or to teach them, for the level of restraint that he showed at that age was very, very impressive. And that's actually quite rare, that they were at an actual, I guess it was maybe an anti-abortion kind of rally, and all of a sudden, you're bombarded with the SJWs, and who knows. So I'm going to keep going. I got quite a few things to get through here. Quite a few things that are going to be, we're taking a little bit of a turn today. Not a turn for the worse, but we're getting back just a little bit out. We're going to come out of politics just long enough to catch our breath, because they're just doing their usual lip service, and in many cases, in some cases, you can feel the genuine concern. You get a sense of those who are playing politics, and then you get a different sense from those who are just, they're bitter. They're all about victimhood, and they're all about ambulance chasing. You get that too, but we'll get into that a little bit too. So shout out to everybody in the stream. And also, let me give a shout out to everybody in the stream before I get started, because once I get started, you might have, now this is actually, I'm going to tell you, let me give you so we're dealing with a few geopolitical shadows, and that's including, we're going to get just a little bit into some of the premise, I guess, or some of the context for even the espionage, the 5G, and we'll go into the culture vultures caught on film, which is staggering, between Donna Brazile and I think Tammy Bruce. And it was interesting to see that exchange. And then we'll just see a little bit of the rioting and the looting out of Wisconsin. So as usual, we're not short on things that are going on, but we will dig through. We will get through it. And thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you guys that are on Periscope. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And moderators, if you are moderators, you need to just do what you need to do at any time. As I expand this platform, and as we get closer to this election, I would imagine, we'll see some different things around here. Not that I want to see those things, but it's one call, or in and out, nobody gets hurt, right? That's how we do it around here. So shout out to everybody in the stream, and I will start out with just a little bit of housekeeping, and we'll get started here. So we're 14 minutes in. Shout out to Philip J. Turner. Thank you so much for coming in. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to play something right now. Let me know. It's what I call an infomercial. Give me a 1 if you can hear the infomercial, and I will try to I'll try to adjust the volume on it. It seems like it's not coming through these days. Not as I used to, as I expect it to come through, but we'll see. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to those of you that are on Periscope. Shout out to those of you that dare to share this out. Miss Carter, thank you so much for coming in. You're new here. Welcome in, Miss Carter. I appreciate you for coming in. So what we're going to do is, all right, so let's get going here. All right. I appreciate you guys so much. So hang tight for hang tight for the infomercial. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started. So you're probably wondering what is all okay. So no sound. Okay, that's good information. So I'm gonna do this another way. So that is my JBS commercial. Little dysfunction there, but you know what? We'll do it old school. Okay. So this segment of our show is brought to you by our good friends at the John Birch Society. Less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. The JBS is a constitutional and educational organization that's been around for over 60 years, dedicated to upholding and defending the Constitution and working to preserve our freedoms and liberties in this country. The JBS does not endorse any political party or candidates. Rather, it focuses on education, training, and development of the American voters. Thank you guys for tuning in and for the old school tolerance. Thank you so much, guys. All right. So, what I have for you today, you've caught the thumbnail by now. All right. So, with everything that's going on, and we tend to get into see, we tend to get into these things these days. We tend to get, and especially on this show. Now, what you see before you, what you actually see before you is from our friends at the JBS, our vetted source, The New American. And this is written by Alex Newman. Alex Newman is a international correspondent for the JBS. And according to this, I'm just going to give it to you. There'll be some paraphrasing in here, but just so you just be aware of that. So this was written actually on yesterday that with the UN discredited, globalists pursue, quote, League of Democracies, end quote. All right. So according to this, with the scandal plagued United Nations increasingly marginalized and ridiculed as a, quote, dictators club, end quote, in the United States, deep state globalists appear to be pursuing a, quote, plan B, end quote, of sorts to move their agenda forward, meet the proposed, quote, League of Democracies, end quote, a decades old plot being rehabilitated and peddled by global government promoting Council on Foreign Relations. Now, the powerhouse Carnegie Foundation, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and various propaganda organs of the globalist establishment. If successful, globalists hope the proposed alliance of 10, quote, democracies, end quote, will quickly become a European Union style entity advancing globalist goals. So here you go. There you have, we talk about, the UN is not the first time you've heard that around here. Of course, if you go through any of the videos or archive videos on this show, you will learn a lot more about the premise for this, the UN Agenda 2030, and what their ideas are, what their goals are. You don't have to wonder, you don't have to pull anything out of the sky. It's all laid out for you. In fact, it seems like New York and California are some of the first states, now this is my assertions, to implement. They move full speed ahead to push that agenda forward. Now, sorry about that. Back to the piece at hand. The scheme for creating this planetary league of, quote, democracies, end quote, known as D10, quote, D10, end quote, ladies and gentlemen, among supporters was first reported publicly in May. However, despite being reported as a novel idea, the plan to develop an alternative mechanism for advancing globalism has been on the deep state's agenda for decades. According to news reports, Prime Minister Johnson's government had already approached Washington, D.C. about it. The Times of London reported that the proposed alliance would include all of the G7 governments: the United Kingdom, United States, Italy, Germany, France, Japan, and Canada, representing more than half of global wealth. Also involved would be the governments of Australia, South Korea, and India. Okay, so with all that said, I'm going to bring you to what I assert is the meat of this, and maybe why it's important to you, because it's not that these things are these are just abstract things that are happening in the world, and most of you are aware of that. These things actually affect what's happening here in America, whether it's UNESCO, what's going into your kids' school curriculums, the amount of hypersexuality that's being shored up and added to your kids' school curriculums. This is the parenting organization, ladies and gentlemen, for these ideas. So that's my argument for why it matters to you on just that one point. Okay, so before you also see a bit of a highlighted section, which is where I will go with this, with the premise of this. The League of Democracies scheme is being pushed in a large part under the guise of countering Communist China's growing influence, particularly in telecommunications and, you guessed it, 5G technology. But that is just the cover story. Ironically, many of the leading groups peddling the D10 scheme were instrumental in building up the mass murdering communist Chinese dictatorship, as this magazine has documented extensively. This includes the giant role of prominent Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, members such as George Marshall in bringing Mao to power. And it includes the crucial aid of globalist architects and deep state luminaries such as Henry Kissinger, David Rockefeller, and George Soros in building up Beijing's economic power over a period of decades. So I'm going to keep going here. So do you guys find it interesting that you've got, everybody's rallying around the idea, that, we all have, China has been at the center of this whole pandemic. Okay. So, but it also makes I'm asserting, when we go back into history, it was Russia was the concern. Okay. So we're going to keep going here. I'm actually going somewhere, believe it or not. Shout out to everybody that's in the stream. Shout out to you. I'm also going to show you another article, show you another piece of my assertion here. So this is the thing. I'm bringing the politics in with this. Okay. So, we have China, and then we have the 5G. Both of those things gives most Americans pause. I don't know about you guys. Let me just check the stream here really quick. Are you guys still with me? Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to Kimon Reed Unstoppable. Shout out to everybody. Let's see, American Powdered Gardner. America needs to seize its money. Throws in money in the treasury. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here. Believe it or not, I'm going somewhere. So if you just look back just a little bit, I did do a piece on 5G technology. Okay, so so the thing about it in Washington, D.C. that I want to bring out is, you hear Nancy Pelosi talking about all the time. Oh, she loves to say, yeah, well, we're going to do this, and it's in a bipartisan way. And, we had so much support in a bipartisan way. So, but this is the thing. It's more become an alert. It's more of an alert to me when there is a bipartisan agreement, especially with what we have going on with with the pandemic, and then of course the concerns over the 5G. So according to this goes back to an older article that I had from the JBS. Across the aisle, you have, guess what? You have bipartisan support. And since Huawei is one of the top developers and manufacturer of 5G equipment, that means the company could, in fact, build in backdoors that would allow the Communist government of China to spy on anyone and any nation, and allows Huawei equipment to form part of the 5G system. Even in our era of extreme political polarization, i.e., right now, there seems to be some bipartisan agreement about the threat potentially posed by Huawei. Okay, so here we go. We're going into our bipartisanship that Nancy Pelosi touts all the time. Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, for one, is convinced that Huawei is a significant threat via the potential for its conduct espionage through its 5G technology. So are you guys still with me on that? I know it's a little heavy, but I'm just thinking, I've heard, even during this time, I've heard quite a few, some people want to say, oh, conspiracy theories about what's going on, that 5G towers are going up and da, 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 da. I think, I will tell you the truth. I saw a huge, what I believe was a 5G tower the other day. And I'm just thinking, is that what everybody's talking about? It had these panels, they were going all the way around. It was absolutely huge. Shout out to Philip J. Turner. How are you? Thank you so much for coming in. So hang on there, DJ. Shout out to everybody. Happy hump day. There you go. So I'm going to keep going there. Battery powered Gardner says 5G is not dangerous. So I'm going to keep going here. All right. So my contention is that when we have the thing about it is when we have rhinos, we have neocons, we have so many players in our government, it's difficult to discern. It's difficult to discern what their interest is. So I'm just thinking that, hang on just a second, guys. Shout out to everybody in the stream. It looks like we've got some different ideas going on there, which, I've read many different things, of course. And of course, everybody's read something different about 5G. But I think, like many things, you don't really know what you're getting into until you get into it. And sometimes it may be a little too late. So I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to bring you back into the article here. Okay, so you also had, this was an article that was published on December 9th, 2019, across the aisle. You also had Democrat Senator Mark Warner of Virginia indicated to The Verge that he also thought that Huawei is a security threat. Quote, there is ample evidence to suggest that no major Chinese company is independent of the Chinese government and Communist Party. And Huawei, which China's government and military tout as a, quote, national champion, is no exception, end quote, Warner said. Quote, allowing Huawei inclusion in our 5G infrastructure could seriously jeopardize our national security and put critical supply chains at risk, end quote. In a report published on June 12, 2019, the Congressional Research Service also pointed to the national security risk presented by all Chinese telecom firms, including Huawei. So here's the thing, no matter where you stand, when it comes to geopolitical gains, we do have people in this country that would prefer, believe it or not, that America not be number one. Is anybody stomach strong enough to hear that? You do. You really do. And we also have elite that believe that as well. So when they mention the Rockefellers, they would be on that list. In fact, I'm going to paraphrase. David Rockefeller himself has been quoted as saying, I'm paraphrasing, that China should lead the new world order because America led in the previous world order. So when we have, and we also have many of the special interests, we have many people that want to see, they are conflicted. We have people that have, it's a conflict of interest. You can call them neocons, you can call them rhinos, whatever. They are conflicted, and they will support, they will go with the agenda that they support. They don't care about what Trump's trying to do. They're going to go with their own agenda. And that is the danger of the technology, as well as, the relations between the US and China. It's not, for one, the Democrats seem to throw a wet blanket on anything that the president has said when it comes to even the pandemic and the responsibilities that they shared in the pandemic and the way that it was handled. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So there again, it's a conflict of interest. And do I need to say that we've been sold out on many levels, whether it comes to our medication? China makes most of the medication, between China making medications, India making many of the generic medications. We are over a barrel between China in many sectors. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. Crazy Chick Sheena says, did the Chinese build 5Gs? Well, honestly, Crazy Chick Sheena, I think they're being touted as even already having that technology. Now, the infrastructure of it, from what I understand, is very expensive for it to be implemented here in the States. And then, of course, that becomes a G7 or whatever. It becomes an issue if it will become an issue if that information has to be shared amongst other nations. So this is the crux of this article, that the UN being dissolved or going into some misnomer or being called a League of Democracy is it's an alternative. It's what they want to say, their alternative. But the alternative, actually, what the outcome, the agenda is still the same. And that's not going to leave the US being number one. That is, to me, that is my assertion on this topic. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Yes, Philip J. Johnson. Philip J. Turner says, my opinion, many businesses sold us out to communist China and the Soviet Russia. So yes. So yeah, I've given you the info on the. I've given you the info. I'm going to actually drop this link in the stream for you guys. So yeah, so you might, like I said, I think this is the thing when I talk about rhinos and neocons. Most of the people that are echoing, all of a sudden everybody's echoing, oh, well, yeah, we need to bring the jobs back to America. But these are the same people that voted to send them out. Okay? I can go back as far as Newt Gingrich during the Clinton administration. Most of these people that are saying that, oh, we should mitigate our dependency on China and bring this industry back. But these are some of the same people that voted, that outsourced in the beginning. Shout out to What Is She Up To Now? Shout out to you. Thank you very much for coming in. Shout out to everybody on the Periscope. If you're joining us on Periscope, I appreciate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that link in the stream. But there again, so all it see, everybody's got their eye on, well, according to this, the UN, everybody's got their eye on China now, not Russia. It's not Russia anymore. It's China. But when it came to politics, our country there's an all occasion straw man next to Donald Trump, and that's Russia. Russia and Trump are one and the same. They're cousins or whatever. So I'm going to put that in there for you guys. So you guys can, dissect and go through that as you please. All right. So that came from our vetted source, the New American. Oh gosh, I've already gone in for like 30 minutes. So, and then I have, speaking of politics, in just a second, I'm going to give you we're going to go to what I'm calling the culture vulture section of today's stream. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate you guys for being here. Shout out to Crazy Chick Sheena. Shout out to JT Waterman. Battery Powder Gardner. I don't know. It's a huge challenge for me to say that. Battery addiction. That's rough. Let's see. Shout out to Philip J. Turner, Kimon Reed Unstoppable. Oh, wow. You said Kimon Reed Unstoppable says, I call him David, evil fella David Rockefeller. I like that. You can put that on a t-shirt. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Let's see. I think it was Shauna Ali. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Chrysler Imperial Age. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. At about maybe about 25 minutes in, I'll take some comments, some live commentary. I just wanted to get through some of this material. So you kind of get the gist. I think I put that in I'll put that in the stream for you guys. Okay. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. So we're going to be going away from this story in just a second. So yeah, so that's just the general idea. It's not my goal to, you guys have clearly can read for yourselves, but it's interesting the way, the UN began around 1945, post World War II. And there again, the goal was to stop Russia from subverting democracy. And all of a sudden it's turned to China. So you got you have a Cold War now with China versus the Cold War from the previous Cold War. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wrap that one up with just a little bit, and then we will go over to our culture vulture of this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. All right. So what I'm going to give you just a little bit more on this, and then we'll leave this one. So it says, perhaps recognizing that an anti-Trump alliance of America's closest allies would not be feasible with Trump in the White House, the globalists seem to have gone back to the drawing board, and the D10 seems to be their next vehicle. In a piece published by the CFR Mouthpiece Foreign Affairs earlier this month, Edward Fishman and Siddharth Mohandas declared that the, quote, Council of Democracies could save multilateralism, end quote. Multilateralism is globalist speak for globalism, essentially making decisions multilaterally with other governments rather than unilaterally as sovereign nations. The subhead of the piece was, quote, Boris Johnson, D10 is the club the world desperately needs. Complaining that Trump has withdrawn from the communist China-controlled UN WHO organization is still setting back globalism on various fronts. The CFR piece argues that the world, quote, quote, desperately needs a new institution that is both global in reach and unified in vision. Something along the lines of Johnson's D10. The establishment mouthpiece pines for a, quote, group of capable, committed, and cohesive democracies, end quote, especially to those that are, quote, most internationally minded, end quote, that could muster, quote, political will and real resources, end quote. It would serve as a, quote, conduit, end quote, that reinvigorates multilateral cooperation, end quote. The Globalist Atlantic Council has been facilitating meetings among D10 officials since the Obama administration, wrote Fishman and Mohandas, who served in the Obama State Department. And that is good for globalism in their view. As the CFR Journal explained, the UN produced less impactful international cooperation than global governance mechanisms such as NATO or the EU's predecessor organizations. And so it is time to open a new front in the war on sovereignty with the legitimacy of being, quote, democracies, end quote. After pretending to solve the phony concerns over not enough 5G providers, the institution, quote, could easily evolve to address a broader and more ambitious agenda, end quote, Foreign Affairs said. So with that, I'm probably going to wrap us up on that one. So you guys can take a look at this article and dig a little bit more. But I think it's pretty clear. You know, I think most people don't really believe some people don't believe in a deep state. Some people think that, I guess we're still flapping around independently. We're still ahistorically, nothing can go wrong. Shout out to everybody in the stream. What could go wrong, right? So this comes from Alex Newman, of course, a foreign correspondent for the New American, regularly attends the UN and international summits. So I think I did put that link in the stream for you guys. So Trump is in their way. Trump has their target, they're off target right now, and they're not happy about it. And I've talked about on previous streams about, of course, Trump has been mocked at every summit, every climate change summit. What was it? Madrid was one of the last ones. I think even Nancy Pelosi decides she'll go, oh, we're still in it. We're still in it. We're lock arms. We're still in it. Sometimes I think that she actually thinks that she is the president. Is anybody going to tell her she's not? We've got this matriarchal, we've got a matriarchal push. It's huge. And I think sometimes that gets lost in all of the things that are going on. If you guys just look at it, look at the governors around the country, look at the mayors around the country, just look at it. And they're all ruling with their version of an iron fist. Shout out to everybody in the stream. All right, guys. So we'll go away from that for just a bit. So what we're going to do is just for a palate cleanser, if you will, we will go now to the Culture Vulture session of this stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Okay, I keep hearing something about this fair use copyright. I think you guys need to let me take care of that. I know it's an act of goodwill and gesture. But this is something that I've dealt with. I appreciate it. It's in the stream. It's in. I mean, it's around here. I don't need to talk about it anymore. Thank you for sharing. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll take you to the culture vulture of this section. Good for you. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Any questions about that? I really appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to go over to an actual interview, which this is featuring Donna Brazile and on a Fox Live. Actually, I wasn't aware of this interview, but it's very interesting, and I'll let you see for yourselves. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Okay, so here we go, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Contributor Tammy Bruce. Donna, start with you. Were you surprised about the diversity of speakers?
If you're referring to Vernon Jones and Herschel Walker, no, I'm never surprised by the lineup at Republican conventions because I'm familiar with how they stage their messaging. So in many ways, if the goal was to present a diversity of speakers, sort of like a choir of people who are all behind Donald Trump, they achieved that. So that's not my complaint, as you well know, Brian. I love conventions because it allows you to tell a story, and the story that they're trying to tell is a story about Donald Trump being the champion of everybody. And that's just not true, but that's the story they want to tell, and that's the story that I'm sure they will reinforce tonight.
Tammy, your takeaway?
Well, look, I think that it's a story that is true. Clearly, the American people see that in their everyday lives. What we've had to do, I think, as Americans is deal with the media that has had one single message, working for the last, 4 years now to demonize one guy. They go out of their way to do it. And the Republicans wanted to make a point to have one evening, and now we'll have 3 more. To show the American people who Donald Trump really is. And this is perhaps the first time that a lot of Americans have seen his success. One thing was going on in Twitter was that Joe Biden chose to speak with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Cardi B. Donald Trump was speaking with hostages that he got freed. He was speaking with first frontline workers for healthcare, speaking with the kinds of individuals who benefited from his policies. So I think that this is incredibly important. The speakers highlighted that as well. You got more discussion about policy in that first night than you got with the entire Democratic convention for 4 nights.
I want you to hear what Herschel Walker had to say. He talked about his 37-year friendship, how he used to babysit the kids when they were kids, and how he first met Donald Trump, the businessman, when he was a running back. And he also talked about his style. Watch.
It hurt my soul to hear the terrible names that people call Donald. The worst one is racist. I take it as a personal insult that people would think I've had a 37-year friendship with a racist. I've seen racism up close. I know what it is, and it isn't Donald Trump. He shows how much he cares about social justice in the Black community through his actions, and his action speaks louder than stickers or slogans on a jersey. He leaves nothing on the field. Some people don't like his style, the way he knocks down obstacles that get in the way of his goals. People on the opposing team didn't like when I ran over them either, but that's how you get the job done.
All right. Donna, you know communications. Is that an effective communication?
Again, he's speaking to Donald Trump's base. He's not speaking to the American people.
Why not?
Let me just say this, and I know, let me just say this. I recognize that, we're not on the same team when it comes to who our quarterback is. But let me also remind Tammy that Joe Biden did not ignore the pleas of the American people. He talked with everyday, ordinary Americans, whether they were first responders or whether they were on the front lines, trying to take care of their own and their community. So we're talking about the story that the Republicans are trying to tell this week. We heard what the Democrats, what a platform told last week. I'm speaking to the Republicans, and what I heard, they're speaking to the choir. And that's fine, because I, like a churchgoer, I want to hear that music. I want to understand what that is. I'm not sitting here early this morning praying as I did last night for not just my family in the Gulf Coast facing 2 hurricanes, but praying for the family. And his name is Jacob Blake, praying for his family, praying that this lives so that he could tell his story. That is what we should do when we at these conventions. Tell the story. Now, tell your story. We told ours, and I appreciate the Republicans telling theirs. And then it's up to the American people to decide which story they like. That's what these conventions are all about.
Yeah, look, thanks for letting me get a word in edgewise here. The fact of the matter is we're talking about the differences between the parties. We're not talking about, we're not going to bubble it out and set it aside. Fact of the matter is Joe Biden's had almost half a century of being in Washington, D.C., and you look at the condition of the Democrat Party, the dour hopelessness of that message, that this is Hillary Clinton's message that he should not concede under any circumstances, the desperation that is there because they know they can't persuade the American people. You might be dismissed last night and the next 3 days as preaching to the choir, but that is the problem with the Democrat point of view, is that they don't consider it a message that Americans represent, that Americans want to hear, that is a part of our everyday lives. It's not just in a political isolation chamber. This is who we are and what matters. And I think that clearly the Republicans have that understanding directly. It's about education. It's about healthcare. It's about faith. And it is about a man who cares about the American people more than he cares about his next job and winning in the sense of, oh, it's just got to be about the next election. He has given up everything, as has his family, to change this nation and get her back on her feet so we as Americans can live lives that best suit us. If you're going to see the incredibly moving stories ranging from Tim Scott to Nikki Haley showing that we can deal with violence, racial violence in a way where we come together. No Democrat has spoken out against the nature of what's happening in Kenosha, Portland, Seattle, Baltimore, New York, Chicago. Americans have a choice. And the fact is that the Republicans are showing an expanse of what the American sensibility is and what the American future is. It's not some discussion over some seminar.
This is why the choir sounds like a note coming from a scratch record. It sounds like I will never be an American in your world, because after 400 years, my family cannot.
Of course you are.
That is not what anyone
said. Walk out this house
That's not what anyone said.
Violence.
No one is saying that.
Tammy, listen.
Donna,
yes, you are.
Was saying
because
that.
you're
you
Tammy. You are saying that to me.
Last night was
you
your
message. What are you saying to me?
You're saying
to me.
What was it about last night
Tammy.
you didn't like,
You need
Donna?
to listen as well as talk.
So you want to know what Tammy's saying to you? So let Tammy answer.
I listen to you, and what you do is you ignore the pains of people who are hurt. You ignore the pains of people who just want to breathe.
Tammy, hold on 1 second. Tammy, hold on 1 second. Okay, so Donna, your point is you're ignoring 400 years. So let Tammy answer you.
Don't be so condescending and patronizing to tell me.
No.
You know,
yes,
I think
she did. you got
doesn't
me up
want an
this morning
answer.
to let me
No.
listen to this
They
diatribe.
No,
want
you've
an
spoken
Coming
most
from
of the
someone
time.
who
Don't
does
want
not
an
live my
exchange.
existence
They
and
don't
do
want
not
us in
recognize
exchange.
my
And
existence.
you,
You
Donna,
do
have
not
not
recognize
lived
my
mine.
existence, Tammy.
Donna,
You do not
haven't lived
recognize
mine
my
or anyone
existence.
else's.
You do
I
not
recognize it
recognize
as
Let's
my
just make it clear.
existence.
We
We're
were here.
all on
You
the
do not
same
recognize.
table
Yes,
as
sir.
Americans.
I
Now let's
love
both of you
that.
calm
We're
down.
all Americans.
Let's
Praise
just,
the Lord.
this is it. We
We're
brought you
all
up for one
Americans.
reason, to talk about night one and preview night two if we had time.
Shout out to everybody in the stream. I'm actually going to put the link out here for anybody that wants to come up. I'll give you 3 minutes, maybe an extra 30 seconds. But do you guys see? Do you see how quickly? Do you see how quickly things turn to? It's all about me, or oh, look at me. You didn't recognize. You're saying I don't have an existence here. Uh, you're not paying attention to me. Did you see that? Did you see how quickly that turned? I mean, can you just stay on the subject? You're not acknowledging people's pain, but I've never seen that before. I've never seen that from one of their own. From one, and then you're right. I saw the comments about Brazil being an actual getting that job on Fox. That's more than interesting, considering the background, Brazil's background. But she can't answer questions. She can't have a conversation without turning it into. She says, "Oh, this is all about preaching to the choir," or this is just a note on a scratched record. Well, even a note, you still haven't heard the note. You still can't identify. You need to identify the note. What note did you hear? You're not making. Nobody can pick up anything other than you're making this about some pain about you. Like I would think that that's bad. That I don't know. I don't know what kind of interview process they had for her taking that job on Fox News. I really don't. I don't know. It just seems that Fox has moved to. I'm not even sure. Can I say that they've moved center, or what direction did they move in? Because that does not represent. That just looks like somebody that's looking for. I've got to kick and scream and scratch and yell the loudest because I'm not getting any attention. She wasn't answering. She wasn't doing no substance at all. Just bitter anger on live national TV. I don't know what did you guys get from that? So right now I'm going to put the link out. Shout out to everybody in the stream. But I don't know. Poor Donna Brazile, poor Donna Brazile. It's rough to be her, right? But see, that's what I'm talking about. I think that's what Larry Elder talks about, is the whole victocrat status. What if she's not being recognized? How did she get on that show? Can anybody explain that to me? If she doesn't have a place in America, then what is she doing on American national TV? How does that work? If she's such a victim, how does she get to talk about her ideas or articulate her ideas on a nationally syndicated nationally syndicated news program? I mean, you would think that she got caught giving questions to Hillary Clinton back in 2016. I mean, if that's not a fall from grace, but you don't have a place in America, but you ended up on Fox News. You landed Fox News after being exposed and stepping down, as I believe she was the head of the convention, or she had a top position at the convention, and she ended up stepping down. I remember what was it, Debbie Wasserman Schultz stepped down. I mean, their whole that was a part. That's enough to red pill anybody, right? How much more red pilling did you need? You needed it. You got it. And the red pill material, it was right there for you in 2016. You know, the Hillary Clinton, you know, she's their champion. They'll do anything for her, even get fired and fall from grace. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I'm just saying, like, you know, but you know, everything's fine in the Democrat Party if you're not paying attention. Everything's fine, right? Donna Brazil's just fine. So I guess the same thing with Joe Biden. You know, he's like top moral character. You know, everything's fine, right? If you're not paying attention. The rapper who says, how do you explain the red pill to older people? You know what? The rapper, I'm going to tell you this now, and I've heard you, you know, mention some things. You know, I don't know. It's, you know, it's complex, but you know, you have people that are emotionally segregated, and that's not not even a red pill. I think you have to, it takes longer for a red pill to work on the older generation. It takes, you know, it takes long, but you have some, I think it's a psychological hold. It's, you know, I've talked about the whole, was it Stockholm syndrome, or, you know, what do they say that, you know, I'm not the originator of this. What is it? Daddy only loves me if he beats me. You know, some people just can't stop voting for the Democrats. They just can't stop. And they don't know why. You ask many people, why are you voting for the Democrats religiously? And they really don't know why, but they still can't give you a good enough reason to stop. They cannot find a reason with everything that's going on to stop. They cannot find a reason to stop. Shout out to Megan Meek. I mean, I don't know. Instead of a walk, alongside the walk away movement or the red pill movement, maybe they needed another type of therapy needs to go along with it. The psychological part of it. How are you going to work on that? I don't know, but it's, you know, you're right. But it takes a long time. But see, the rapper, you're getting on to something that I've talked about before. From a cultural standpoint, you know, racism is readily available in the Black community. And that's not something anybody, and that's my experience. And I've seen them do it to other people. You know, I've said this before, you know, Democrats have trained the Black community well. They train them to destroy. And when somebody else says that they're not going to destroy or they're not going to be a part of the destruction, that's when more attacks. You get more attacks like, oh, you can't leave us. Where do you think you're going to leave us? And that's when the attacks, that's where you get the coons and the you know, will go out of the community. You get called a fascist or an anti-Semite. You get called all these things. But I think it's more of a psychological hold. And I don't know what the answer is. All I know is, I mean, even some of my own family members, you know, they're stuck. And sometimes, you know, when you get stuck, you get stuck mentally. You get stuck in your immaturity. You get stuck. But I will tell you, for one, the thing about it is, I've had conversations with my friends or my dad, even my dad. I say, you know what, Dad, everything you're saying is a conservative view. Did you know that? You just described yourself as a conservative. Or what? But see, you can't. The thing about it is, it's more important. You know, and I'm not going to say this about my dad, but just overall, but to some people, it's more important to be hateful and to white man bad than to, you know, to be consistent or to submit to your conservative views, to come full circle with that. It's easier easier. You can't, I'm telling you, hate is not something that people can turn off. And the thing about it, every 4 years, we have these emotional segregation tensions start to rise and swell. These ground swells on emotional segregation comes right back up. But you have one party, they're driving it all year long. They drive it all year long. They rip the wound off, but see, the other thing about it is when I talk about the fake martyrdom, every time somebody does something that they should not do, they want to euphemize and say, oh, see, the thing about it is the whole victimhood thing, which makes perfect sense. Oh, well, somebody did something to me, so I can go out and hurt other people. I was hurt, so that means I can hurt somebody else, right? Hurt people. Oh, somebody hurt me. Oh, I can go hurt them. That's how that works. I should be able to hurt other people because somewhere along the line, somebody or me close to me was hurt. So that means I can just hurt other people. But then even with that logic, with that sick logic, where do you stop? Where does it end? When do you think you will be done with your avenging? I'm not a psychologist. I don't profess to be. I don't say I'm on this channel or any channel. I am not a psychologist, psychiatrist. Nope, that is not my domain of competence. I think I have a couple of domains of competence, but I don't put them. That's not this show. It's not a chance for me to do my resume on here. But that's not my domain of competence. But I will say, I think with the lack of self-autonomy, with the lack of self-value, and the more people put you down, whether it's from childhood or whether it's peer pressure, that's how people get stuck where they are. But for the older generation, you have the older generation, they actually witnessed the pre-civil rights movement and the post-civil rights movement. They witnessed those things. But still, I think they fail to realize there was still a level of con. There's a level of con even in that. Like right now, a lot of people honestly think that they're doing the right thing by saying that they support Black Lives Matter, but they don't realize that there's something behind Black Lives Matter that's not quite on the level. Are they going to take the time and go and look for that? No, they don't realize that they don't realize what that fist means. They don't realize what that means. They think, it's not a new symbol. We shall overcome has been used all over the world, not just here in the United States. And see, that's another thing. A lot of people seem to think that slavery was originated here in the States. I think, what was it? Who was it? Hillary Clinton's former running mate for president. I can't think of his name right now. The guy, Tim something. He was on camera quoting, said that basically he was saying that slavery originated in the United States. If you know anything about history, not even from an American history aspect, you know that can't be possible. How is that possible? Tim Kaine. And even Tim Kaine knows what he's saying. That's why I talk about how language is the enemy of the people when it comes from politicians. He knows that that's not true, but he knows that those that are not paying attention, that are not thinking, that run high on emotion, he knows that he can appeal. He knows what will set him off. He knows what makes him tick. And that's exactly what's going to keep it going. They know that. We've seen communism in Algeria. We've seen it in Cuba. We've seen it all over the world. But people that don't have a larger framework, or they don't know history, they cannot put anything together. All they can do is coast on what they get from the mainstream media. And I encourage everybody on this show, don't just come here for information. I don't know. I usually don't present things that I can't support more than usual. I don't present things that I cannot support. But I'm also not serving propaganda. I try to give you guys information and you do with it what you will. Shout out to everybody. Commode Reed, Unstoppable. She says, what? Slavery was so far in history in many countries in the world. Yes. But according to Tim Kaine, right? He's, they are all trying to move. They want to, the thing about it is, I've been a college professor, and we all know that some of the pinnacles of being a college professor and being in that community is you want to become, we know you want to become published. We know you want to be tenured. We know you want to get your academia, your accolades. We know that. And to them, what they want to eliminate grammar in some of the East Coast schools. I don't know, was that Rutgers? For the Black community now, they've come up with all this politically correct speak. They've come up with their own BIPOC, INGSOC. Here I'm going into 1984. They're coming up with all of this garb. But guess who it's going to hurt? It's going to hurt ultimately. It's going to hurt the Black community ultimately. And then but you have politicians that are going to follow it right up. They're going to eat it right up. And then in 100 years, no, not even 100 years, in 20, 30 years, you'll look back on some simp says, oh, well, we thought we were just trying to advance society. We were just trying to help our pet Black people over here. That's what they say, and then what is the other thing? I think it was, Dr. Thomas Sowell said something like the road to heaven was built, or the road to hell was built, was built with a Harvard elite or a Harvard grad standing in the middle, something like that. It's just this whole elite culture. In fact, I will tell you, this election, this last 3 to 4 years, I've had some conversations, and I think I've some friendships or some acquaintances that, they've ended over it. Because I told one of my professors, I said, you're an elite. You're one of them. You were my professor, but you're an elite. You say you're not, but your actions say they're quite, it's very different, like the thing about it, I'm describing someone here. So, sorry, going to a bit of an anecdote bit here, but he's one of these people that, they were, can I say, were blessed or gifted with not really having to study hard. So he's one of these people that he's actually quite lazy. If he doesn't, he could probably be a better musician, it could have been a better instructor, a better dean, you name it, the whole 9 yards. But if it's something that he actually had to work towards, he ran for the hills. But in the meantime, he's over there telling other people he knows what's best for you. He and all of his PhDs and all of these things, he knows better than you. He's still above you. Oh, I'm so smart. Look at me. I have 5 degrees and I'm the dean. I'm the ex-dean. Da 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 da. But he can't put the victim, the victim line down. I don't know how that works. I really don't. He would rather his community, and even the ones closest to him, stay in a victimhood status for the rest of their lives, rather than, can I say, this is going old school for those of you, rather than them be all that they can be, or be self-sufficient or self-sustaining or solvent. And I find that making him an elite. You'd rather hate white people and do things and keep people in the victim mentality than to move them forward. And I'm like, how could you be a college professor? How could you be a college professor with that mentality? You're taking people's money, but you know the chances that they have of what they're doing are very slim. But you just keep patting them on the head, letting them keep showing up late for class, don't show up at all, don't take the test. And, that's unfortunately, that's his legacy. But, it's like once I learned, because in college, sometimes you look up to these people and you're in awe of them. But then as time goes on, you start to figure out, you start to see other things that say, oh, this all makes sense now. You want people to praise you and you want people to do things just because you said, not based on any facts or stats or reality, because you think it's what's best for them. And to me, that's the whole elite. I think that's their mantra. Shout out to everybody in the stream. What is she up to now? What is she up to now? Says it's because in their mind, it works really good, but in real life, it doesn't work at all. I know. It's like what the intent versus the outcome, or, those two things, reality versus the intent. So it just doesn't match up. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to JT Waterman, Battery Powered Gardener, Philip J. Turner. Yeah, so I really appreciate you guys so much for coming in. So I'm going to get to the next portion here. So sorry to go into so many anecdotes, but I just, I recognize, I try not to be an elite. I don't think I can be. I think it starts in the mind. And then after that, everything else follows. All right, guys. So now we're going to go to a little bit of the news. I think this is going to be a reflection of the Jacob Blake case. I happen to be one of those people that I really just watch things unfold in many cases, not just cases of shootings. It doesn't matter. I just wait for it to unfold because that's what it's going to do. But I think some people find it they find it much more self-serving, or they're getting something out of, jumping to conclusions or whatever prior to, evidence or official words coming out. So, but like I said, and I'm going to say this, and then I will play this, I find it that even in the education system that we have, you can't control people first and foremost, but you can teach kids the difference between right and wrong. You can do that. But as far as teachers being socio-emotional directors and police officers being socio-emotional directors, I mean, it's like, I don't know how people's minds work. Like, what are you supposed to, I don't know. I'm not a cop, never been a cop. I don't know what they go through, what their training is. But I don't imagine that it's kind of like being a hall monitor or a principal. If you catch somebody doing something wrong, you just kind of escort them back to their place where they're supposed to be, and then they go on. Or you ask them, what kind of punishment would you like? I don't know what utopia that is, but it doesn't work. Shout out to everybody in the stream. All right, so we're going to go to that story. So this is going to come from Blaze TV. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring. Okay. All right, guys. So this is actually going to be, I think this is Elijah. And I think I have something else on him. So we're going to go ahead. And this is from Kenosha. And he's undercover in Kenosha, covering some of the blaze and all that's going on there. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We are out here in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in front of one of several structure fires. This one being an office store on the street. The heat is so intense. We're going to go ahead and we're going to walk back this direction. To my left, you can see we're in front of a car lot, which has been completely vandalized by members. And if we are out here in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in front of one of several structure fires. This one being an office store on the street. The heat is so intense. We're going to go ahead and we're going to walk back this direction. To my left, you can see we're in front of a car lot, which has been completely vandalized by members. And if you actually want to take a look over here, the correctional facility, as I showed you in our last video, has been completely engulfed in flames. But structures are not the only targets. As a dump, I think it was either a tow truck or a dump truck, has been targeted. And it actually exploded a little bit earlier. Lastly, I want to point out as we're out here, just take a look at the heat from this. It's just so intense. It's absolutely incredible as law enforcement continues to stay, I guess, doing really nothing. But what can you do when there's a few officers, thousands of protesters, and multiple fires? My name is Elijah Schaefer, reporting for Blaze TV, undercover here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Thank you so much again for watching. Have a great rest of the night, and may God bless the United States of America. We are out here in
Sorry about that, guys. That was Elijah Schaefer from Blaze TV, and it looks like he's had quite a few mishaps or rough circumstances that he's been met with over the last few days. And with that said, I will take you over to another follow-up with Elijah Schaefer. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Tuesday, we have some more on the convention. I thought it was what was smack dab in the middle of it. And I find out later that a gun was pulled on him, I guess, and riots that were going on there. Main reason is because a coworker of mine, Elijah Schaefer, is what was smack dab in the middle of it. And I find out later that a gun was pulled on him. I guess the guy was not threatening you, but it sounds on the videotape that you have that he actually pulls the trigger. So it appears to have been an empty gun if that was the trigger pull. And he was explaining what he was going to do to cops if they rolled on him at that point. Elijah is with us now. Elijah, you're in Wisconsin. You're safe.
Yes, Glenn, I am safe, and thank you so much for having me on the show. But unfortunately, this city already under the heavy pressure of COVID and race tensions is definitely in a very bad position right now.
Tell me what happened last night. What did you see?
What I saw is something that I don't think you would ever want to see, especially in this country. Something that looks like it's from a movie. These are wild people under the guise of fighting for Black lives and against police brutality, indiscriminately destroying public property. And what I mean is, I've never seen this before. They destroyed every single lamp post. These are large, 15, 25 foot high public lamp posts. They knocked them down. in the street, broke open every window they could find, lit buildings on fire in huge acts of arson, destroyed dozens of city vehicles with Molotov cocktails, and they they burned the city to the ground.
So, where was anyone to stop it? Was there a police presence at all? I mean, this is a city under curfew. They blocked the freeway exits to make sure that people were not exiting into downtown, doing everything they could, as a curfew. But was there any police spray? Was there anything to slow these people down?
Glenn, I know your viewers probably already can predict what I'm about to say, but despite the National Guard being there, they were deployed despite what appeared to be some sort of state or county troopers and police. They were not there to protect the private property. They were not there to protect the citizens of the town. They were in a line protecting the county courthouse. And believe it or not, the only people that were there deterring crowds during the state of emergency and the curfew were what appeared to be vigilante or right-wing militiamen who were armed in brigs and were successfully deterring rioters from burning down and destroying additional businesses, while law enforcement pretty much did nothing. While that's not a slight, that's just a report of the facts.
Well, the law enforcement on the street is not making the decision on what to do. Those are the people above them. That's the governor and the mayor. So this is, Madison, Wisconsin is one of the most progressive cities in the country. Wisconsin is a progressive state. What are the city leaders saying today? What's their plan?
I don't have a Lamborghini. I don't have a garage filled with books that contain all of the knowledge that I need.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm on the streets. I'm with, some of my friends, George Ventura of the Daily Caller and Kaylin Delmeda of Scriber News, and we're out here. Where's ABC? Where's CNN? Where's MSNBC? But most importantly, where are the leaders? I haven't seen them. And I'm looking at business owners, people that are just confused because they're experiencing something that you shouldn't have to experience in the most powerful country in the world. We have the power to stop this. And there's not much that the city leaders can say besides condemning the violence. But when you condemn something, but yet turn a blind eye to it and allow it to take place, your words really don't mean anything.
But are they actually condemning it? Are they saying Antifa and these riots, or are they saying these are peaceful protests? The usual crap from Seattle and Portland. Are the leaders in Wisconsin any different than those leaders?
As of today, I'm not sure of any public statements that have been made. I could be wrong if one of your listeners will, correct me. I'd love you to reach out to me, Elijah Schaefer, on Twitter and let me know if you know something I don't. But I know that some of the live streams that happened yesterday, they were not adequate to condemn this to the full extent. And what happens is, and I think you'll know this, I'm predicting it's possible that the violence and the arson could be worse tonight because it accelerated last night from the night before. Because the city, this is where it gets crazy. I showed up after the first day. I drove up here from Chicago covering protests and riots in Chicago, about an hour and a half south. And when I came here, they had not even cleaned up the city from the night before. There were still burned city vehicles that were in the streets. They were barely putting up some barriers. There was maybe 2 police officers that I saw within a few square blocks of the uptown region. This city was not prepared for what happened. They did not properly prepare the following day. And from what I could see, they did not provide the resources to this area that were needed to prevent this. And you have to ask yourself, being from a state, being from a country like this, how do we not have the resources? How do we not have the ability, the National Guard? No, we do have those resources, especially in a national crisis like this. But why were they not deployed? It can only make you think and wonder.
Well, I will tell you this. I've been saying that Wisconsin was going to be burned down to the ground this summer because that's where the convention was supposed to be. They should have been more prepared on what to do in case of riots and civil unrest than any other city in America. It looks like you don't need the Democrats to come to town. They got their operatives there burning things down anyway. Elijah, I'd be interested in hearing from the owner of the car dealership that had the sign Black Lives Matter up on the the car dealership sign, and yet they burned every car in the lot.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting in front of it right now. This is to your surprise. So the first night they only burned part of the car lot. Last night they successfully destroyed the rest of it, to the array of massive explosions of fuel tanks combusting due to high temperatures and absolutely intolerable, I should say, heat that just, intolerable heat that you just could not handle from even 20, 30 yards away. I mean, these are intense flames. I'm looking at that sign right now. I'm not sure if it belongs to the church right now.
All right, guys. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So there you can kind of see what's happening in that. You can see what's happening in that area with someone that's covering or that's actually been in the location. And of course, the mainstream media, they're not going to they're only going to cover certain things that move their own agenda forward. So I guess it'll just be a story that we'll continue to follow. And the reports, I'm not even sure that there's, the reports are done on it. But some people don't wait for anything. They don't feel the need to wait on anything. They just coast on a few images, and that's all they need. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to the Definition of Anarchy. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate you for all that you do. Thank you so much for What Is She Up To Now? Crazy Chick Sheena. Kimon Reed, Unstoppable. The Rapper 10,000. Shout out to everybody that came in. Battery Powered Gardener. So I did have a link out in the stream. I'm not sure, like I said, because I usually save those if we're gonna do some commentary or have some callers, if you will, that we do those towards the end so that we can kind of get through a few things. But yes, thank you guys so much for coming in. I think it's still out there someplace. Shout out to Megan Meek. Thank you so much. Shout out to Philip J. Turner, DJ Vision Barnett. Are you still out there? Shout out to you. Shout out to Chrysler Imperial H. Really appreciate you guys for taking the time on your Wednesday. And we'll probably wrap up here in just about 5 minutes or so. Appreciate you guys. I'll read a few of your comments. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Said they should be arrested by the National Guard and charged with insurrection, sedition, and subversion, and without bail until trial appearance. Yeah, and that's, I'm thank you so much, Battery Powered Gardener. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. And please don't forget to check out the community tab. The mask hacks. They're on, it's on the page, it's on the community tab. So go over there and see what that's about. Just check it out. Just check it out. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like the RNC, I think that many people are just so weary of all the dynamics that are going on. And, I think that the thing about it, I think that people that are the well-informed, they're pretty solid, where they are. I don't think that they're, a shift in people that have already made up. I think a lot of people have made up their minds, so to speak, when it comes to an election. People have already made up their minds about what they're going to do. And I will say I will say this again, as I said it yesterday. I do think that, of course, in terms of cohesion, in terms of, policy, I think they don't have, the Republicans don't have an issue with that. They don't have an issue with that. The left, on the other hand, I can't say what that was that we witnessed last week. It's not like anything I've ever witnessed before as a convention. So it's not something that I would watch again. Pretty dark, but I think this is we're on the third night. I'm not sure who's scheduled to speak on that. I don't know. I just think that we're looking for a solution based world is what we're craving, and we need, it's like we need relief. We're looking for relief, and I think we've all come up with ways to cope during this time, and I think there will be, this feels like the longest 90 days or the longest year, yet it's only, at times it's flying, and at other times it feels like it's just time is drawing out like a blade. And yeah, that's what it feels like, that we're not. But I'm saying, I've said this, I don't mean to be a negative Nancy or Debbie Downer, but I don't necessarily think that this is something that's going to go away on November 4th, on November 3rd. I don't. I will say, I think if one party doesn't win, they're going to sue one party. The other party doesn't win, they're going to sue one party. No, they didn't mention, they had like nothing's going on. Yeah, that's of course. They're just, but you get, when you had, of course, Bernie Sanders made a bunch of appearances last week, which, I think he was galvanizing what was his base. They're doing what they're being rallied to do, doing what they're told. And I just don't think it's going to go. I'm thinking that, unfortunately, I don't think, because we've got so many governors that are doing draconian lockdowns, they're doing a lot of things that are unconstitutional, to say the least. And I don't think that the ballot box is going to get us out of this. It's not going to be instant gratification, is what I'm saying. It's not going to stop the rioting. It's just not. That's, I think, I don't know if that's the cynic in me or just the realist in me, however you want to spin it. But I'm just thinking, because it's just like, to me, this is an unprecedented time. And, but I don't know, who knows? I might tune in tonight. And if there's a chance that I might do some type of, I don't know, I want to call it a reaction. Was it a reaction or a rant? A reaction, which is easier on the ear, a reaction or a rant. You guys pick. Shout out to What Is She Up To Now? No, it's not riots. We'll keep going. No, it's not the riots. We'll keep going if Trump wins. Yeah, I believe that. But somebody was talking about, I think on another show, about how, do you guys remember, it was the LA riots, and I think how the Korean community started knocking the nonsense off when they started coming for their businesses. They just, on the roof. I just, yikes. Shout out to Crazy Chick Sheena. All right, so I'm going to do a final shout out, and a shout out to the loyal patrons, as well as you, the subscribers, and the people on Periscope. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I appreciate you guys. And I appreciate all contributions on this show. I appreciate all contributions. I appreciate all advice. And, it's a wonky time. What can I say? The rapper says the pro-black side is asking for a race war. More will die if they don't cut this out. Well, the rapper, you said it. I mean, I sometimes I'm just thinking, I don't know. I just think that people will lead you. What do they call it? They call people sheep. You'll be led to the slaughter if you don't really know. If you don't know what's going on out here. If you're not trying to find out what's going on. All right. So we'll go through our final shout outs on this one. Crazy Chick Sheena, the more. It's funny. Let me just say this about BLM. One thing that I'm seeing is if I go into another chat room or if I go anywhere on social media, I don't see any black people out here doing all these Black Lives Matter rallies. I'm like, yeah, you just get here. You've seen some of these, people are being harassed, and I don't know. All I can say is I would advise people to stand their ground and protect yourselves. That's what I would say. As I have a friend from Alabama. He says, stay locked and loaded. Is what he Yeah. So that's I think that's where we are, unfortunately. Or otherwise, you might be dragged out of your car, or I don't know. I don't think that the chances of that happening in Alabama are very high. I really don't. I don't. Shout out to everybody that's still in the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming in. But see, that's the thing. It's like we're dealing with, you might have calm on all fronts in some parts, in some states, in the majority of one state. And in the other state, you got just chaos everywhere. Little minefields of chaos everywhere. Crazy Chick Sheena, are you from Alabama? Do you have Alabama roots? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That business is not going to go very far. I think they, I don't know if they figured out that but I have seen a lot of people starting to, when they come into their neighborhoods, you're from Massachusetts. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with that state, but I've been in Boston a few times. Yeah, because I have tons of friends that live in Alabama, and they're like, wow, we don't have that problem. I'm like, not right now, you don't. Not right now, you don't. So shout out to everybody that's in the stream. I really appreciate you guys so much for coming in. But it's definitely, the culture, it's diverse. It's definitely diverse everywhere. And it's funny, I'll tell you what, you haven't seen the left condemn anything, the violence. No. Nope. You haven't, and you won't see it. Shout out to everybody that's in the stream. So I'll see what's going on, and maybe I'll see you guys later. I really appreciate you guys so much for coming in. All right. Thanks, guys, so much. And you said, Philip J. Turner says, even the grannies are packing heat around here. I don't know where you're from, Philip J. Turner, but that sounds about right too. Either they're packing heat, or they're packing frying cast iron skillets, baseball bats, you name it. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I wanted to share something. Okay, if I do this, it'll be the last share, and then I'm going to scoot out of here. Hope you guys are doing well on your Tennessee. That's close enough. Close enough, Philip J. Turner. Close enough. Okay, yeah, okay, I've got one for you. So I'm going to share this one with you, and then we're gonna bail out. So a little bit of BLM action for you coming right up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn.
Motherfucker.
Looks like we got a few reindeer games coming our way. For your last one, all right, guys. Hopefully that's not coming to a restaurant near you. So I guess you better bring your mask and whatever else. Bring your mask to the fight. I don't know. Is that bring a mask to the gunfight? Shout out to wow, Old Head Deuce. Thank you so much for coming in. See, that is right on the money. Old Head Deuce says the government looks the other way. Shout out to everybody in the stream. See, every time I start pulling away, you guys pull me back in. Right on, the rapper 10,000. You guys are right. All right, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today on the show. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned. Like I said, who knows? We'll see what the day's developments are. And I may catch you back here for a moonlight stream or well, that's nice. I appreciate it. It's nice to be liked on your channel. I guess otherwise, or I get tomatoed, or you guys throw tomatoes or whatnot. But thank you guys so much. You've been fantastic, and thanks so much to the people over on over on Patreon. You know what? I want to take a quick note of everybody that's in the stream really quickly before I sign off here. Looks like I have some new people in here. If you're not new, then maybe you're just new to me. I will come over and check out your channels. Is anybody else going live? I'm not, even though I'm not a grow stream, I don't mind doing what they call the raids. You know what, Philip J. Turner, I'm glad you came up into this. Philip J. Turner. Give me just 1 second, Philip J. Turner. Philip J. Turner with the period, right? Philip J. Turner. Oh, there you are. Now, there we go. There we go. Thank you so much, Philip J. Turner. It's all set now. Okay, so Philip says if the Republicans control the House, that stuff wouldn't be happening. You know what, Philip? I don't know. You know, they had the House and the Senate. Yikes. Yes, I appreciate. No worries. And I looked for you yesterday, but I think I left out the period. You know, if you don't get the deets down, you will not. You can't find a person. You know, and that's and maybe that's the way it should be. You know, maybe it's very specific. So I really appreciate everyone. Shout out to everybody that's in the stream. Shout out for everybody that came in or came through, as they say. I really appreciate it. What is she up to now? I need to check you guys out. My new people or newer people, and battery powered gardener. I need to remember that you are battery addiction. Is that correct? Is that correct? Battery powered gardener. All right, guys. You guys have a fantastic Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next live stream, next video, or in the comments section. And I will see you guys around. Stay tuned, because I may do another live from like an on location live. Oh, look who's here. It's AZ Infidel. Thank you so much, AZ Infidel. I'm sorry you're coming in at the 11th hour, but this is available in replay, and I really appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much, and thank you guys over on, what did you say, Flash Rant? Oh, so is that what you're advocating for, a Flash Rant? So we'll see what happens. You know, we'll see. And I do. Who was it? While the government stands by. Yeah, we have a lot of bystanding, and that's a little. See, I don't want to go into a rant, because that's what I would be ranting about, would be the standby positions that not only the governors have taken, you know, that the mayors have taken tons, you know, just yes. And even for those that are in Congress, they've taken a standby, they've been on silent mode as well. That's what I'm saying. Don't come out now waving flags and telling us how much you love America. But in the meantime, you say nothing. You don't condemn anything. You don't speak out. You don't speak to your people, your constituents. You know, they're part of these states too. Just because you're a congresswoman or congressman doesn't mean that you can't speak out against anything, and you just don't see that. You don't see that. And I think there's a reason for that, and it's not a good one. So I appreciate everybody, and for all that you do, and for investing your time and spending your time here on Black Spring with Autumn. You guys have a great rest of the day.